house had a way of holding its breath. It was a big, beautiful prison of polished hardwood and weighted ceilings, purchased with my husband Watson's money and filled with the echoing silence of our dying marriage. At 38, I felt more like a curator of a museum than a wife. I kept the surfaces gleaming and the flowers fresh, a perfect domestic painting for a man who rarely looked at the canvas. Anthony was a ghost in his own home, a creature of emails and conference calls. He was 48, 10 years my senior, and those 10 years had become a chasm. He saw me, I think, as a comfortable piece of furniture, reliable, aesthetically pleasing, but ultimately inanimate. The passion we once had was a brittle yellowed photograph in an album I never opened. Then there was Leo. Before we continue, I need to ask you something important. Please subscribe to my new channel, Evelyn's Secret Stories, using the link below. We're posting daily over there since this channel is having some difficulties. Don't miss out on the next story. Leo, his son from a first marriage, had come home for the summer after his sophomore year of college. At 20, he was a shock of life in the sterile, quiet. He was a younger, sharper version of his father, the same dark hair that fell over his brow, the same strong line of his jaw, but where Watson's eyes were tired and distant, Leo's were piercing. Intelligent blue that seemed to see everything, especially me. Our interactions were polite, surface level. Morning, Paisley. Need anything from the store? Leo. But underneath the placid surface, a current was building. I'd catch him watching me as I stretched after my morning yoga, or when I bent to pull a pan from the oven. I told myself it was nothing. I was just a woman starved for attention, projecting my own desperate loneliness onto a boy half my age. Please tell me where you are listening from. I would love to know. Then came the night that changed everything. It was almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Anthony was, as usual, asleep in the guest room, a decision made months ago under the guise of his snoring. I was wandering the dark hallway, a glass of water in my hand when I heard it. A low, rhythmic sound from Leo's room at the end of the hall. It wasn't music. It was a strange, muffled thumping punctuated by a soft, almost electronic worry. My first thought was a broken fan, but curiosity, that dangerous cat, pulled me closer. The door was ajar, a sliver of blue light spilling into the hall. I pressed my ear to the cool wood. I heard my own voice. My blood went cold. It was a recording, me talking to our housekeeper Maria, about grocery lists. Then another clip, me on the phone with my sister, laughing. Then the sound of me humming as I watered the plants on the patio. I pushed the door open a fraction of an inch, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. Leo was at his desk, his back to me, headphones on his large computer monitor. A grid of video feeds played simultaneously. The kitchen, the living room, patio, the hallway, all from subtle low angles. He was watching a highlight reel of sorts. Clips of me from the last few weeks. Me in my yoga pants stretching. Me in a sundress, reaching for a book on a high shelf. Me just sitting on the couch, reading completely unaware, shock-warded with a strange, dark thrill. He had hidden cameras in the house. The violation was staggering, a cold spike of fear. But beneath it, a traitorous warmth bloomed in my belly. He was watching me, not just seeing me, but watching me, studying me in a house where I felt invisible. His obsessive gaze was a twisted form of flattery. I backed away before he could see me, my mind reeling. I didn't confront him, couldn't. The secret became a third presence in the house, a shadow that clung to both of us. From that night on, the air crackled. The game changed. He knew I didn't know. I knew that he was watching. It was a silent, dangerous dance. His boldness grew. At breakfast, his eyes would drop from my face to the V-neck of my silk robe, and they would stay there for a beat too long. I'd feel the heat of his stare on my breasts as if he'd physically touched them. Quick pause before the story continues. If you love these kinds of stories, please subscribe to my new channel, Evelyn's Secret Stories, in the link below. We're uploading every day there since this channel is a bit limited right now. I don't want you to miss any of the secrets we're sharing. One morning, as I leaned over the table to grab the salt, I felt his gaze trace the curve of my ass in my sleep shorts. When I straightened up, his eyes met mine, a flicker of a smirk on his lips. He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. The touches began, a hand brushing my lower back as we passed in the narrow upstairs hallway. his fingers lingering on the bare skin just above my waistband. "Sorry," he'd murmur, his voice a low rumble, but his eyes said he wasn't sorry at all. He'd stand too close when I was at the stove, his arm brushing mine as he reached for a glass, sending a jolt through my entire body. Each touch was a question, and my shivering response was the answer he was looking for. I was a mess of conflict. The guilt was a physical weight in my chest. This was Watson's son, boy. But the excitement was a drug, a potent cocktail of fear and desire that made me feel alive for the first time in a decade. I was playing with fire and I knew it. But the warmth was too good to resist. The storm broke on a Tuesday night. It was a biblical deluge, rain hammering the roof and wind rattling the windows. Anthony was in Chicago for a conference. It was just me and Leo. Two islands in a sea of crashing thunder. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. The house plunged into an inky absolute blackness. "Paisley," Leo's voice called out from the living room, closer than I expected. "I'm here," I answered, my own voice shaking slightly. In the kitchen, looking for candles. My hands fumbled in the junk drawer, searching for the familiar wax cylinders. A flash of lightning illuminated the room for a split second, and he was there, standing in the doorway, a silhouette against the raging world outside. "Find any?" he asked, his voice calm and deep in the darkness. "Not yet." My fingers brushed against a book of matches. "Got it." I struck one. The small flame danced to life, casting our shadows long and distorted against the cabinets. I turned and he was only a foot away. I could see the glint in his blue eyes, the way his chest rose and fell. The air was thick, heavy with the smell of rain and unspoken things. "You're shaking," he said, not as a question. He reached out and his hand covered mine, the one holding the matchbook. His fingers were warm and strong, engulfing my own. The little flame trembled between us. "I don't like storms," I lied. It wasn't the storm that was making my heart race. It was him. "I'll protect you," he whispered, his thumb stroking the back of my hand. The match burned down to my fingers and I dropped it with a hiss. We were back in darkness, but the connection was still there. I could feel the heat of his body, could hear his breathing. He didn't move away. He took another step closer. "Paisley," he breathed my name, a prayer and a plea. And that was all it took. I closed the distance between us. My hands found his chest, feeling the hard muscle beneath his t-shirt. His hands came up to cup my face, his thumbs tracing my cheekbones. The first kiss was tentative, a question. The second was the answer. It was a desperate, hungry kiss, fueled by weeks of stolen glances and forbidden thoughts. It was wrong, and it was the most right I'd felt in years. His mouth was demanding, his tongue exploring mine with an urgency that left me breathless. He backed me up against the kitchen counter, the cold marble a shock against my back. His hands slid from my face, down my neck, over my shoulders, and came to rest on my ass, pulling me tight against him. I could feel the hard ridge of his erection through his jeans, and a wave of pure, unadulterated lust crashed over me. "Is this okay?" he murmured against my lips, his breath hot. "Don't stop," I whispered, the words torn from a place of deep, aching need. He didn't. His hands were everywhere. One slid under my shirt, his fingers tracing my ribs before his palm closed over my breast, his thumbs stroking my nipple through the thin lace of my bra. I gasped into his mouth, my fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him closer. This was madness. This was ruin. And I wanted more. With a groan, he lifted me onto the counter, my legs wrapping around his waist. The sounds of the storm outside were a symphony for our transgression. His mouth left mine, trailing a hot path down my neck, over my collarbone. He tugged at the hem of my shirt, pulling it over my head. Another flash of lightning lit up the room, and I saw his eyes, dark with desire, fixed on my chest. He unhooked my bra with an expertise that should have bothered me but didn't. He took my nipple into his mouth, and I cried out, my head falling back. The sensation was electric, a direct line to my core. It had been years since Anthony had touched me with such hunger, if ever. "You're so beautiful," Leo rasped, his voice thick with want. His hands went to the button of my jeans, fumbling for a second before they came undone. He pushed them down, along with my panties, his fingers brushing against the wet heat between my legs. I was slick for him, ready for him. The thought was both shameful and exhilarating. He shucked his own jeans and boxers down his powerful thighs. In another flash of lightning, I saw him hard and ready. He was magnificent, young, vital, and wanting me. He positioned himself between my legs. "Paisley, look at me," he commanded softly. Open my eyes. His face was inches from mine, his expression a mixture of intense concentration and raw need. "I've wanted this for so long," he said. Then he pushed into me. The feeling was overwhelming. He was thick and hot, stretching me, filling a void I didn't even know was so vast. I gasped, clinging to his broad shoulders.